Sophia's voice, cold as ice, echoed through the hotel ballroom. Next, I have a personnel announcement. I was sitting at the sales department's table, joking with a colleague, but the chatter died in my throat when I heard my own name. Effective immediately, Luke Davis will be reassigned from his position as sales manager to sales associate. He will report directly to VP Mark Lynch. The cavernous room fell silent. 1,000 pairs of eyes swiveled to me. I froze, my gaze lifting to the woman on stage. My wife, Sophia Reed, the CEO of this company. She stood there in a sharply tailored black pantsuit, a faint smirk on her red lips, her eyes utterly devoid of warmth. This company values merit, not connections, she said, her eyes locked on mine, her smile laced with contempt. Luke, starting today, I'm going to teach you the meaning of a level playing field. A few scattered claps broke the silence, but they were quickly drowned out by a rising tide of whispers. What happened? Isn't he the CEO's husband? I heard he just married his way to the top. Looks like the ride's over. My fingers clenched around the stem of my wine glass, knuckles turning white. I said nothing. 6 months ago, we were the couple everyone envied. She'd text me during late nights at the office. Hubby, I'm craving the pasta you make. I'd secretly hold her hand under the boardroom table, earning a playful, blushing glare. Now, she looked at me like I was her mortal enemy. She hated me because of what happened, because of the one thing I could never, ever tell her. After the gala, I went straight to her office. The door was ajar, and I heard her on the phone. Yes, do exactly as I said. Make his life difficult. Her tone was glacial, a world away from the gentle voice I knew. I knocked. Come in. She looked up, and when she saw it was me, her expression hardened. What is it? Why? I asked, cutting to the chase. She let out a cold laugh, leaning back in her leather throne of a chair. Why what? Why the demotion? In front of everyone. Her eyes, sharp as shattered glass, bore into me. Do you honestly think you deserve to be a manager? I didn't answer. She rose, the clicks of her heels on the marble floor echoing in the silent office as she walked toward me. Luke, did you really think you could just coast for the rest of your life, hiding behind me? I took a deep breath. I never thought that. Didn't you? She sneered. Do you have any idea how many people in this company think you're just some freeloader who married the boss? I don't care what other people think. Well, I do. Her voice shot up, sharp and brittle. I refuse to let people think Sophia Reed's husband is a worthless parasite. Her words ricocheted off the walls, stinging my ears. I stood in silence for a long moment before finally speaking. Fine. I accept the transfer. She looked momentarily stunned, as if she hadn't expected me to fold so easily. You? I didn't wait for her to finish. I just turned and walked out. Back at my desk, my old desk, the way my colleagues looked at me had changed. Some buried their heads in their work. Others actively avoided my gaze. Dave, a guy I usually got along with, came over and clapped a hand on my shoulder. Buddy, what the hell was that? I shook my head. It's nothing, just a corporate reshuffle. He looked like he wanted to say more, but he just sighed and walked away. The next afternoon, I was moved to a cubicle in the farthest, darkest corner of the office. The computer was a relic, and it wouldn't even turn on. The guy from IT just shrugged. Sorry, Luke. New machines are backordered. We might get one in next week. I knew it was an order from the top. I was the last one to leave the office that night. Standing on the sidewalk, I looked up at the top floor. The lights in the corner office were still on. Sophia was working late. A few months ago, I would have been running up there with her favorite takeout. Now all I could do was turn and walk away. I came home to our cold, empty apartment. Sophia hadn't been back in weeks. I sank onto the sofa, pulled out my phone, and swiped to the photo. A picture of me with another woman, looking intimate. It was a trick of the angle, a forced perspective, but it looked for all the world like I was kissing her. I knew this was why. This was why Sophia hated me. But I could never explain. Because the woman in the picture was my sister. My half-sister. The one sent away as a child. The one nobody knew existed. She has leukemia. She needs money for treatment. And I can't let Sophia find out, because that would unravel everything. Late that night, I sat alone in my new, cramped cubicle, the glow of a borrowed laptop illuminating my face. An anonymous email had just arrived. Attached was the same photo. I let out a bitter laugh. Sophia, I whispered to the empty room, is this why you hate me so much? The next morning, an HR notification hit my inbox the moment I logged in. To Luke Davis. Effective immediately, you will be responsible for client maintenance in the Midwest territory. Travel frequency is adjusted to 3 times per week. I stared at the screen, my fingers frozen over the keyboard. The Midwest was the company's graveyard. The last 3 reps who took it on had all quit from the pressure. I looked up just in time to see Sophia gliding out of her office. She wore a pristine white suit, her heels silent on the plush carpet, yet her presence alone seemed to mute the entire office. Her gaze swept across the floor, paused on me for a fraction of a second, and then moved on as if I were a piece of furniture. I closed the email and headed for the break room. As I approached, I heard voices from inside. Did you hear? They're shipping Luke Davis off to the Midwest. Serves him right. You can't be a kept man and a cheat at the same time. Should keep it down. The conversation died the instant I pushed the door open. They scattered awkwardly without a word. I silently poured myself a coffee and left. That afternoon, I was on a train to Chicago. My first meeting was at 7 p.m. with a client. On the way, I got a text from Sophia. I want the sales data for the entire Midwest region for the first half of the year on my desk by Friday. I glanced at the date on my phone. It was Wednesday. That meant I had to hit 3 cities in 2 days and somehow compile 6 months of data. Okay, I texted back. She didn't reply. The client in Chicago was a man in his 50s named Henderson, a gruff construction magnate who had built his empire from scratch. Luke, your company's quote is way too high, he grumbled. Apex is coming in 10 points lower. I slid the prepared file across the table. Mr. Henderson, our material quality is a grade above theirs. These are the lab reports. He glanced at the folder and tossed it aside. I don't care about paperwork. Can you do better on the price or not? The absolute best I can do is a 5-point reduction. That's our bottom line. He sneered. Then there's nothing to talk about. Show him out. I stood up. Mr. Henderson, we've been partners for years. I'm asking you to reconsider. He just waved his hand, and his assistant escorted me to the door. Outside the skyscraper, I checked the time. 10:30 p.m. I stood on the curb and lit a cigarette. My phone vibrated. A text from Sophia. Did the Henderson meeting fall through? I frowned. How could she know already? Still in discussion, I replied. Her response was instant. Don't lie to me. Henderson just called me. I took a long drag from the cigarette and crushed it under my shoe. I'll figure something out. She didn't reply. I took the red eye back, arriving at the office early the next morning to grab some files. The atmosphere was tense. A few colleagues were huddled together, but they broke apart the second I walked in. I got to my cubicle and realized my laptop had been tampered with. All the files on my desktop were gone. Who touched my computer? I asked the empty air. No one answered. I looked at the intern in the next cubicle. She kept her head down and mumbled. Mr. Lynch was here this morning, Luke. I didn't say a word. I went straight to the IT department. The department head, an older guy named Frank, looked pained. Luke, I'd help if I could, but Mr. Lynch said your computer had a virus. He ordered us to wipe it and do a clean install. What about the data on my hard drive? It's gone, man. Nothing we can do. My fist clenched, then slowly relaxed. I get it. At lunch, I sat alone on the roof. My phone rang. It was the hospital. Mr. Davis, your sister's next chemotherapy payment is due. We need it by tomorrow at the latest. Okay, I'll transfer the money today. After hanging up, I checked my bank account balance. Since the demotion, my salary had been cut in half. Between that and Chloe's medical bills, my savings were almost gone. I opened my messages and hesitated for a long time before typing a text to Sophia. Can I get a 3-month payroll advance? It's an emergency. She didn't respond. At 3 p.m., I was suddenly summoned by accounting. The CFO pushed a form across his desk. Luke, Ms. Reed approved your advance, but you'll need to sign this agreement. I picked it up. It was a performance-based clawback agreement. Within 3 months, sales in the Midwest territory must increase by 30%. Failure to meet this target will result in the immediate repayment of double the advance salary. The CFO nodded grimly. Ms. Reed's terms. Sign it or forget the advance. I picked up the pen and signed my name. That evening, as I was packing up to leave, Sophia's assistant told me the CEO wanted to see me. I pushed open the door to her office. She was reviewing a document and didn't look up. Sit. I sat in the chair opposite her desk. She closed the file and looked at me, her expression unreadable. Do you know why I made you sign that agreement? I do. Tell me. You want to force me to quit? A small, humorless smile touched her lips. You're not as dumb as you look. I met her gaze directly. I'm not quitting. She stood and walked around the desk, looking down at me. Luke, how long do you really think you can last? Long enough. Her eyes narrowed. Fine. We'll see about that. Outside the building, night had fallen. I stood on the sidewalk, pulled out my phone, and dialed a number I hadn't called in a long time. Hey, Chris. I need you to look into someone for me. Who? Mark Lynch. I want to know everything he's been up to for the last 6 months. I hung up and glanced back up at Sophia's office window. The light was still on. I knew this was only the beginning. It was 2 in the morning, and I was still sifting through client data. The glare of the laptop screen made my eyes burn. I rubbed my temples, about to shut it down, when a new email popped up. The sender was a random string of characters. The subject line read, "Nice work, Mr. Davis." I clicked it open. A photo filled the screen, me sitting in a coffee shop with a woman. She was leaning in close, her head almost on my shoulder. My hand was resting on the back of her chair, but from the angle the picture was taken, it looked like my arm was wrapped around her. The body of the email contained a single sentence. "Does Ms. Ree know about this?" I stared at the image, a sharp pain pulsing in my temples. The woman was my sister, Chloe. I had taken her out last week after a chemo session, but the photo had been deliberately cropped to capture the most misleading angle possible. The next morning, I was summoned to the CEO's office the moment I walked in. I pushed open the door to find Sophia standing with her back to me, staring out the floor-to-ceiling window. "Close the door." Her voice was flat. I shut it behind me and waited. She turned, an iPad in her hand. She tossed it onto the conference table. It skidded to a stop in front of me. "Explain." The screen displayed last night's photo. My throat felt tight. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" She walked toward me, her heels sinking into the thick carpet. "Who is she?" "A friend. A friend." She let out a sharp, incredulous laugh and picked up the iPad, zooming in on the picture. "Since when do you have friends like this? You look pretty comfortable with her." I opened my mouth to tell her the truth. "That's my sister," but the words died on my lips. I couldn't. Chloe's identity was too dangerous. If it got out, the media would dig. They'd find out about her illness, about my father, about everything. Seeing my silence, Sophia's eyes grew colder. "So you're not denying it?" "I'm not." "Then tell me who she is." I remained silent. She stared at me, and then a slow, chilling smile spread across her face. "Wow, Luke. Just wow." She picked up her desk phone and jabbed a speed dial button. "Mark, halt all projects in the Midwest. I want a full reassessment of all our partnerships in the region." She slammed the phone down and looked at me. "You can go now." When I got back to my desk, my computer was locked again. The IT guy said, "Orders from Mr. Lynch. All computers in the sales department are being encrypted for security." I glanced around. Everyone else's was working just fine. At noon, Dave pulled me into the stairwell. "Man, what did you do to piss off the boss this time?" "It's nothing. Don't give me that. Lynch just announced in the morning meeting that he's taking over all of your accounts." My hands balled into fists. "When did this happen?" "Right after you went into her office." That afternoon, while I was preparing the handover files, my phone rang. It was Chloe's doctor. "Mr. Davis, your sister's test results are back. She needs surgery as soon as possible." "When?" "Next week would be ideal. The cost will be around $200,000. I closed my eyes. "Okay, I'll get the money." I hung up and checked my bank account. $3,000 left. That night, I met Chris for a drink. He was one of the few friends I had left. 200 grand? "Man, I'm tapped out right now," Chris said, scratching his head. "Why don't you?" asked Sophia. I shook my head. "Not an option." "What are you going to do, sell a kidney?" I didn't answer, just took a long pull of my whiskey. Chris sighed. "Look, I know a guy. A loan shark. The interest is brutal, but he can get you cash fast." I hesitated for a second. "Give me his number." The next day, I went to a grimy office in an industrial park on the outskirts of the city. The loan shark was a bald man with a thick gold chain around his neck. 3 months. 50% interest. "You're late, the VIG doubles." I signed the contract. He counted out 20 stacks of cash and pushed them across the table. "Pay on time, Mr. Davis." I was heading back into the office building when the receptionist called out to me. "Luke, Ms. Ree wants to see you in her office." I clutched the duffel bag full of cash, my palms sweating. I pushed open her door. She was signing documents. She glanced up, her eyes immediately fixing on the bag. "Where have you been?" "Meeting a client who pays in cash." I didn't respond. She stood and walked toward me, then suddenly reached for the bag. I flinched back instinctively. Her expression shifted instantly. "What's in there that I can't see?" "Personal items." A cold smile played on her lips. "Does it belong to that friend of yours?" I didn't deny it. She stared at me for a long, hard moment. Then she said, "Luke, I want a divorce." My head snapped up. "I've already had the papers drawn up. My lawyer will be in touch tomorrow." She turned and walked back to her desk, her tone as casual as if she were discussing the weather. "Now get out." I stood on the street below, clutching the bag of money. My phone rang. It was Chloe. "Hey, bro. The doctor said I can have the surgery next week." "Yeah," I said. "The money's all set." "Your voice sounds rough. Have you been staying up all night again?" I took a deep breath. "No, I'm fine. You just get some rest." I hung up and looked up at Sophia's office. The lights were still on. I knew, then, that some things were broken beyond repair. I stood in the hospital corridor, my finger hovering over the print button on the bone marrow registry kiosk, my hand shaking. Donor ID, D107. Match probability, 92%. A passing nurse spoke softly. Mr. Davis, that donor's file is sealed. We'll need more documentation from the family. Inside the room, Chloe was folding paper cranes. She saw me and quickly hid her bottle of painkillers under the blanket. Hey bro, the doctor said my white count. It'll be fine. I cut her off, reaching over to slow the drip of her four. An overdue payment notice peeked out from under a vase on the nightstand. Since the demotion, my salary barely covered her basic treatment. Mr. Davis, the nurse reappeared about the outstanding balance. Just then, the elevator chimed open. Sophia strode out, a stack of files in her arms. Her heels stopped short on the polished floor. What are you doing here? Her eyes narrowed, landing on the hospital room behind me. Who's sick? Chloe was seized by a violent coughing fit. The heart monitor beside her bed began to shriek. A friend's daughter, I said, trying to block her view of the window into the room. Sophia pushed past me. What friend's daughter requires you to take 4 days off work? A nurse rushed toward the room. Excuse me. The patient needs oxygen. In chaos, Sophia's gaze fell on a medical chart that had slipped to the floor. Patient, Chloe Evans. Guardian relationship, brother. Sophia's hand trembled as she picked it up. Chloe Evans, Charles Evans's daughter? The daughter of the man who killed my mother. She's your sister? Every word was laced with venom. And you? Who are you? What is your relationship to Charles Evans? He's my father. So I married the son of a murderer. I grabbed her wrist. Listen to me, Sophia. I didn't know about any of this when we first met. She ripped her arm away, her nails digging a raw, red line into my skin. 5 years. For 5 years, you slept next to me. I shared a bed with my mother's killer's son for 5 years. At that moment, the attending physician hurried over. Mr. Davis, the D107 donor has agreed to a meeting. Sophia snatched the tablet from his hands. When she saw the screen, the color drained from her face. This is my father's donor ID. She looked up at me, her eyes bloodshot. Her voice caught in her throat, and she swayed. I instinctively moved to steady her, but she shoved me away with surprising force. You and your father, you're quite a pair, she said, a broken laugh escaping her lips as tears streamed down her face. If my dad knew, if he knew he almost saved the life of his enemy's daughter. The TV at the nurse's station was playing the morning news. A memorial for the 10th anniversary of the Apex Chemicals disaster will be held tomorrow by victims' families. The camera cut to Mark Lynch giving an interview. We will pursue accountability from all surviving relatives of the person responsible. The blood in my veins turned to ice. I finally understood what my uncle meant on his deathbed when he gripped my hand and whispered, "Never let anyone find out you're Charles Evans' son." Sophia, I said, blocking the elevator. Divorce me, ruin me, I don't care. But Chloe, she pressed the closed door button. Luke, my office. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring the signed divorce papers. The doors slid halfway shut before she stabbed the open button again. You know what the sickest part is? Her voice was terrifyingly quiet. Last week, when my dad signed the donation forms, he said that saving a life was a blessing. Her nails dug into her palms. And now that blessing is for the daughter of the man who murdered his wife. As the doors closed for the final time, I heard her last words. My mother is watching, Luke. At 3:17 a.m. Chloe was asleep, aided by a sedative. My phone lit up with a text from Chris. Lynch sent Chloe's and your info to a reporter. Another text followed, this one from a corporate number. Your personnel file has been accessed by the legal department. A camera flash went off outside the window. 2 men in baseball caps were taking pictures of the hospital room. I gently slid the test results from Chloe's sleeping grasp. On the back, in the doctor's pencil scrawl, without transplant, patient's life expectancy is less than 3 months. The line on her heart monitor suddenly spiked, the alarm piercing the night. I stood by the window, watching more reporters gather on the street below. My phone vibrated again. A text from Sophia's father. My office. 8 a.m. tomorrow. Come alone. I remembered the night before our wedding, 3 years ago. Mr. Reed had pulled me into his study. Luke, my daughter doesn't know about your family, and I won't be the one to tell her. But you remember this. If that secret ever hurts her, I will make you pay. That day had come. I spent the entire night on the hospital roof, sitting on the edge. A call from Chris jolted me. Luke, we've got a problem. Lynch gave all your and Chloe's info to the victim support group. They're mobilizing. How many? I asked, my grip tightening on the phone. At least 30. The guy leading them, Ken Thompson, his brother died in the explosion. When I got back to the room, a nurse was changing Chloe's bag. Mr. Davis, the hospital director, needs to see you. In the director's office, 3 security guards stood by the door. Mr. Davis, given the current circumstances, the board strongly advises that you transfer your sister to another facility immediately. He slid an iPad toward me. The screen showed a trending topic on a local news site. Killer's children face justice from victims' families. The post included a photo of Chloe in her hospital bed and a picture of me. The comment section was a firestorm. We have credible information about a protest scheduled for tomorrow, for the safety of our other patients. When I returned, Chloe was awake. Bro, did I cause trouble for you? I tucked her blanket in. Don't be silly. We're just moving you to a nicer hospital tomorrow. My phone vibrated. An email from Sophia. The subject was divorce agreement. The body of the email simply said, signed before 9 M. Hospital entrance, 7:00 M. I'd barely reached the lobby when I heard the chanting from outside. An eye for an eye. Kick the killer's daughter out. Through the glass doors, I saw a crowd of about 20 people holding banners. Ken Thompson was at the front, yelling into a news camera. Charles Evans's daughter owes us an explanation. The head of security stopped me. Use the back exit. We have a car waiting. Reed Industries Tower, 7:50 M. Mr. Reed's assistant led me straight into the main conference room. Sophia's father stood with his back to me, holding a file. Do you know what this is? He turned, tossing the file onto the long table. Chloe's bone marrow compatibility report. I stood my ground. Sit, he commanded. Let me tell you a story. 10 years ago, in that explosion, my wife didn't have to die, he began, his voice dangerously calm. She ran back into the fire to save 3 workers. One of them was Ken Thompson's brother. He opened the file. Inside was a faded photograph. This was the last picture ever taken of her alive. In it, Sophia's mother was helping a burned man away from the Apex Chemicals plant, black smoke billowing behind them. After your father was sentenced, I ran a background check on your entire family, Mr. Reed said, his eyes locking onto mine, including you and Chloe. He pushed another document toward me. This is the consent form for the bone marrow donation. I've already signed it. My head snapped up. What are the conditions? Mr. Reed's gaze was like ice. First, you divorce Sophia and you leave New York City forever. Second, you'll go to the press and confess that you deceived my family. You will not mention that I knew who you were. And third, he paused. After she recovers, Chloe Evans will change her name and disappear. Permanently. The conference room door swung open. Sophia stood there. Her eyes flicked from the papers on the table to me. Dad, the press is downstairs. You can leave, her father said. Luke and I aren't finished. Sophia didn't move. What are you two talking about? I looked at her red-rimmed eyes, and made my choice. Mr. Reed, I accept your terms. I turned to Sophia. Chloe is my half-sister. She just turned 18. She was put in foster care when she was 8 and knows nothing about what happened back then. I took a shaky breath. I hid my identity because at first, I didn't know the whole story. By the time I found out, I didn't want to lose you. The color drained from Sophia's face. Mr. Reed slammed his hand on the table. That's enough. Get out. As security escorted me from the building, Ken Thompson and his reporters swarmed me. There he is, the killer's son. How dare you show your face? Flashbulbs blinded me. Someone threw a water bottle that glanced off my shoulder. Just then, my phone rang. The hospital's number. Mr. Davis, your sister's condition has suddenly worsened. She's coding. I shoved my way through the crowd and ran. When I got to the hospital, the light above the operating room was on. A nurse stopped me. You can't go in. The patient is having an acute rejection episode. They're trying to stabilize her. I slid down the wall, my legs giving out. My phone slipped from my pocket. The screen was still lit with the last text Sophia had sent me. Why did it have to be you? A few days later, the surgeon emerged from the glass doors, his scrubs damp with sweat. The transplant was a success. Now we just have to monitor for rejection. I leaned against the wall, my legs feeling weak. I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over the screen for a long time before I finally typed the words. Chloe's surgery was successful. Sorry I can't leave yet. I'll come back to sign the divorce papers once she's stable. I sent it to Sophia and shoved the phone in my pocket. In the CEO's office at Reed Industries Tower, Sophia stared at her phone, her thumb hovering over the reply button. Her assistant knocked timidly. Ms. Reed, Mr. Lynch is asking about the acquisition. Get out. After the door clicked shut, Sophia's thumb rested on the screen for another minute. Finally, she just deleted the half-typed message and tossed the phone into a drawer. It landed next to our wedding anniversary photo from last year. In it, I was sliding a ring onto her finger, and she was smiling so hard her eyes had crinkled into crescents. Her fingertips traced over my smiling face in the photo. She remembered my birthday last year, how I had secretly decorated the office rooftop with a canopy of fairy lights. She'd worked late, and when she pushed open the door, she found me standing under the manufactured stars, holding a cake from her favorite bakery. "Happy birthday, my queen," I had said, my smile so gentle. "Make a wish." She had wished we would be together forever. She remembered the time I had a fever last winter, but insisted on making her coffee before she left for work. She'd scolded me for being stubborn, and I just laughed. My queen can't function without her morning brew from me. The photo blurred. Sophia realized her own tears were dripping onto the glass frame. She hastily tried to wipe them away with her sleeve, but it only smeared them. In the back of another drawer was a small box filled with post-it notes I had left for her over the years. Every single one started with "to the best wife in the world" and ended with "your loyal servant, Luke." She had saved every one from the day we met until our last good day together. Suddenly, she grabbed a heavy file from her desk and hurled it against the wall. Papers exploded into the air. She sank to the floor and finally let out a choked sob. Why'd you have to lie to me?" she whispered, clutching at her chest where a hollow, physical ache resided. "I trusted you so much. I loved you so much." She remembered all the times she'd come home drunk from a work dinner to find me waiting up with a glass of water and some Advil. The time she had the flu and I stayed up all night, putting cool cloths on her forehead. The day I proposed, spelling out "marry me" in hundreds of roses in the plaza below our office. The memories were no longer comforting. They were daggers. The deeper the love, the more excruciating the pain. Shaking, Sophia picked up her phone. The camera roll was still full of us. A photo from last month showed her leaning against my shoulder, my arm around her waist, both of us beaming. "Luke," she whispered to the empty office. "Don't you know, I would have rather you lied to me forever." A tear fell onto the screen, perfectly obscuring my smile in the photo. Meanwhile, in the hospital room, I was counting the drips from the 4-bag. 1, 2. My phone vibrated. It was Chris. "Got everything on Lynch. It's bad. Ready when you are." I texted back a simple "T checks," then looked up and caught my reflection in the dark window. Unshaven, eyes webbed with red veins. A nurse came in and handed me a lab report. "Mr. Davis, the doctor wanted me to remind you. You need to make a decision soon." She lowered her voice. "You should be resting, too. Your own test results." "I know." I cut her off. "Stage 4 lung cancer." The nurse froze. I offered a weak smile. "Don't tell my sister." I crumpled the report and stuffed it into my pocket. Just then, Chris burst in. "Luke, you have to see this." He shoved his phone in my face. It was a screenshot of an email from Mark Lynch. "The photo has been doctored. Guarantee she won't see the seams." "It doesn't matter anymore," I said, handing the phone back. "It's all over." Sophia came home to our apartment and saw my slippers still by the door. She remembered how, in our first year of marriage, I would come home from every business trip, stand at attention, and salute. "Reporting for duty, Madam CEO. Your most loyal employee has returned." She snatched the slippers, ready to throw them in the trash, but instead, she collapsed to the floor, hugging them to her chest. Her tears hit the hardwood, splashing in the silence. That night, Sophia dreamt of our wedding day. Her father was scowling in the front row, and I was sweating through my tuxedo on the altar. When the officiant asked, "Do you, Luke, take Sophia?" I suddenly started coughing up blood, staining my white shirt crimson. She woke up with a scream, her pillow soaked. Her hand fumbled for the phone on the nightstand. The screen was still open to our last text exchange. Below my message, "I'll come back to sign the divorce papers once she's stable," was the blank space where her reply should have been. Her fingers moved on their own, dialing my number. "The person you're trying to reach is unavailable." She shot out of bed, grabbed her car keys, and ran. The sharp clicks of Sophia's heels echoed in the hushed hospital corridor. The nurse at the station looked up. "Visiting hours are over." "I'm the CEO of Reed Industries," Sophia said, flashing her ID. "Where is Luke Davis?" The nurse hesitated, pointing toward the end of the hall. "The family waiting area for the sterile ward," but Sophia was already moving. She rounded the corner and stopped dead. I was hunched over a trash can, racked by a violent coughing fit. Dark red blood seeped through my fingers. The back of my white shirt was soaked with sweat, clinging to the sharp angles of my shoulder blades. "Luke!" My entire body went rigid. I scrambled to shove the bloody tissues into my pocket. "What are you?" Sophia crossed the distance between us in 3 strides and grabbed my wrist. A smear of my blood stained her palm. What is this? Just tired. Stress, I rasped. She stared at my pale lips, then reached out and pressed her hand to my forehead. The heat radiating from my skin made her pupils dilate. You're burning up and coughing up blood, and you call that stress? A nurse rushed over. Ma'am, Mr. Davis has been. Enough. I snapped, cutting her off. Sophia let go of me and marched toward the nurse's station. Tell me everything about his condition. Now, I'm fine. I lunged to stop her, but a wave of dizziness washed over me, and the world went black as I collapsed to my knees. In the doctor's office, Sophia's hand trembled, clutching the medical report. Stage 4 lung cancer? Since when? The doctor adjusted his glasses. He was diagnosed 3 months ago. Mr. Davis refused all treatment, stating he needed to cover his sister's surgical expenses first. 3 months? Sophia's voice rose, cracking. That's when he started taking all that time off. The coughing fits have become more frequent. The cancer has metastasized to. Sophia slammed the report down on the desk. Why wasn't his family notified? Mr. Davis listed his sister, Chloe, as his only emergency contact, the doctor said with a sigh. He told us. He had no other family. Sophia sagged against the wall. The report crumpled in her fist. They wheeled me out of the exam room with for my arm. When I saw her, I instinctively tried to look away. Don't move, she commanded, her hand clamping down on the force stand. Her voice shook. How long were you going to hide? The nurse whispered. The patient needs absolute rest. I am his wife, Sophia bit out, each word sharp and clear. Legally. After the nurse left, she finally broke. Are you insane, Luke? Stage 4 cancer, and you kept it from me. I tried to sit up. It was just bad timing. Chloe was sick and what about you? She cried, grabbing my hand and pressing it to her own tear-streaked cheek. Look at yourself. Look at what you've become. Her tears felt like fire against my skin. Sophia suddenly remembered months ago when I used to complain about a dull ache in my back. She had been buried in quarterly reports and had brushed me off. Just go see a doctor, Luke. She realized now, with sickening certainty, it had been the cancer spreading to my bones. She remembered last week, when she'd told me to get out of her office. I had bent down to pick up a drop file, and the movement was slow, pained like an old man's. I just smiled and said, Don't be angry, Ms. Reed. I'm going. The steady beep of the monitor filled the silence before she spoke again. Why didn't you tell me? I stared at the ceiling. And say what? That I was dying. You knew I would. You would what? I turned to look at her. Pity me? Chain yourself to a dying man out of obligation. Her nails dug into her palms. Luke, how can you say that? I sighed. The truth is, when Chloe got sick, all I wanted was to hide her from you. I didn't want you to find out I was Charles Evans' son, and... Stop it. She shot to her feet, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. Luke, what do you take me for? What did our 5 years of marriage mean to you? I looked into her red, swollen eyes. They were the best 5 years of my life. Her phone rang, shattering the moment. Her father. She silenced the call, but it immediately rang again. Answer it, I said with a faint smile. Don't make your dad worry. She stepped into the hallway. What is it? She answered. Her father's voice came through the speaker, tinny and distant. Sophia, the board has called an emergency shareholders meeting. Dad, she screamed, her voice breaking. He's dying. Do you hear me? Luke has terminal cancer. The line went silent for a long time. Finally, her father's voice returned, heavy with resignation. I see. Sophia stayed by my side all day, wiping the sweat from my brow with a cool cloth. Her tears fell onto my face. Why wouldn't you get treatment? Chloe couldn't wait, I whispered, taking her hand. Besides, the success rate was less than 10%. She snatched her hand back. So you just chose to die? I chose to save the person who could be saved. Sophia pulled the divorce papers from her purse. I reached for them, but she ripped them in half right in front of me. You, listen to me, Luke, she said, her voice raw but steady. You want a divorce? You get healthy, you stand up, and you sign a new set. You don't get to use dying as an escape. She threw the shredded paper into the trash. Otherwise, I will be your wife for the rest of my life. Just then, Chris rushed in, stopping short when he saw Sophia. Ms. Reed, do you have it? I asked him. He handed a thick envelope to Sophia. All the evidence against Lynch. Everything. It's enough to put him away for 10 years. Sophia took the envelope. I'll handle this. She turned back to me. Your only job right now is to fight. It's no use, I said with a bitter smile. It is, she insisted, her voice rising. I've already contacted a specialist from Johns Hopkins. He's flying in tomorrow. Chris quietly backed out of the room and closed the door. That night, Sophia fell asleep in the chair by my bed, her head resting on the mattress. Her hand was wrapped tightly around mine, just like it was on our wedding day 5 years ago. The line on the heart monitor began to beat a little faster. I gently brushed a stray tear from her cheek. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm going to make you cry again." The specialist from Baltimore removed his stethoscope and shook his head. 2 weeks at most, he told Sophia. Her fingernails dug into her palms so deeply that beads of blood welled up, unnoticed. "Isn't there anything else? Any other option?" "We've exhausted every available treatment," the doctor said with a sigh. "The cancer is too aggressive." I managed a weak smile. "Thank you, doctor, for everything." I was cut off by another racking cough. Sophia immediately wrapped her arms around me, holding my head as flecks of blood spattered her white silk blouse. Chloe was wheeled in, a lapful of freshly folded paper cranes. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. "Bro, I walked 3 steps on my own today." Her gaze fell on Sophia's tear-streaked face, and her own tears began to fall again. Sophia knelt by her wheelchair and took her hand. "Your brother wants to see the sunrise over the ocean. Will you come with us?" A private ambulance took us to a secluded beach in the Hamptons. Sophia had arranged for the entire stretch of coast to be cleared. Medics set up a portable hospital bed on the sand. I shook my head. "Let me sit in the wheelchair." The salt-laced wind felt warm on my face. I closed my eyes. "It's so peaceful." Sophia suddenly knelt before me, burying her face in my lap. Her shoulders shook violently, but she bit her lip to stifle the sobs. I started coughing up blood again, uncontrollably. Sophia stayed on her knees in the sand, uselessly dabbing at my lips with a handkerchief. "Just hold on a little longer," she pleaded through her tears. "The sun's almost up." I stared at the dark horizon where the sea met the sky. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice a faint rasp. My breathing grew shallow. Sophia pulled me into her arms, holding me close, and began humming the song from our wedding. "Luke, look," she whispered, pointing toward the horizon. "It's getting lighter." I fought to keep my eyes open, but my vision was fading to gray. "Sophia, I'm right here. I think. I see my mom." Her arms tightened around me. "Don't go. Please don't go." As the first sliver of golden light broke over the ocean, my heart stopped. Sophia held on to me, refusing to let go, until the medics gently tried to pull her away. "Ms. Reed, he's gone." She shook her head frantically. "No, he promised me. He promised he would watch the sunrise." The morning sun cast our 2 shadows long across the sand, making them look like one, just like in our wedding photo. Strangely, I could still see everything. I watched Sophia collapse onto the sand. I watched Chloe fall in her arms, both of them sobbing. I watched the medics shake their heads in sorrow. I tried to wipe the tears from Sophia's face, but my hand passed right through her cheek. I floated beside her as she dressed me in the tuxedo I wore on our wedding day. "It's so ugly." She wept as she fumbled with the bow tie. "I told you this style was dated." Chris arrived, his eyes red. He handed her a letter. "I found this in his desk drawer." Sophia unfolded the single sheet of paper. There was only one sentence, written in my familiar scrawl. "If there really is a next life, I'd still show up for that job interview, just to see you again." As my body was being taken away, Sophia suddenly ran forward. "Wait." She pulled our wedding rings from her pocket. He should be wearing this." A medic took the ring from her and slid it onto my finger. The moment the cold metal touched my skin, a soft light enveloped me. Everything became a pure, blinding white, as warm and safe as a forgotten memory. Time seemed to stretch and dissolve. Then, the light fractured, and I saw her. A little girl with wide, curious eyes, staring right at me. "Hi," she said. "My name's Sophia."